go to the top, and that way you're not editing a master sheet, right? Like we want to make sure that we all make our own copy and then you can edit your own sheet. So I'm just making sure everybody's good to go on that if you've got access. Andrea, it says I am in but waiting access. Did that work?
Sorry, my computer is so slow right now.
It's okay. So if you're in your drive and you get it, or you click that link at the top where it says more actions, you should be able to go down. It says open with, download, rename, go to make a copy. And then you can, that's your copy. No one else will see the information you put in there. It's your spreadsheet. You can use it however you'd like to use it. Okay, can we all get a thumbs up if everybody's got access to that sheet and they've made a copy and they can all use their copy?
Not yet. I'm working on my phone. Hang on. I got to switch over to my computer. I'm going to leave you for a second.
Okay. All right, let's see. Now I just need 2 seconds to figure out how to share my screen.
You're fine.
Give me 1 second.
Don't die during my meeting.
Don't make a copy.
Stand by as Allison gets her stuff fixed. So does anyone have anything good? Any good, fun, new listings or under contract buyers that you couldn't get? I actually had a call from a past client and out of nowhere, she's like, yeah, she bought like within a year. She's like, yep, I want to sell. I'm going to buy a motorhome, travel the country. Anybody have any wins this week? Nobody.
Hey, Sissy, will you do me a favor and see if you can share your screen? I'm having a problem with my Mac allowing me to share my screen, and we can just share your screen and then go from there, and then you could just follow along, if that makes sense. That way we don't have to sit here and worry about trying to solve problems.
It does. Give me a second to get a few things cleaned up.
Sorry. That's
okay.
What we were trying to figure out, is it wasn't allowing me to share my screen, but I'm thinking it'll allow somebody else to share their screen, and then we can rock and roll.
I'll probably have to make I think whoever's the host has that access. So hold on, let's see.
I allowed her to share multiple participants.
Anna, I think I can. I'm just cleaning up some tabs that were open. So give me just a quick second.
No, let us see all your tabs.
No, it's totally fine. Don't you want to see my YouTube Christmas music tab?
That's very PG, because it could have gone.
All right, Al, I think I am ready for you.
Okay, perfect. So you should be able to share. I gave you permission.
Yes, working on that now. And I am opening that tab as we speak. Screen share.
Oh, there's my ride or die. If she would have been on, I'd have given Kristen the option to screen share. Sorry.
Happy to be your backup.
Perfect. Got it. Okay. So does everybody see Amanda's screen? We're good?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I want to go over today, and what I think is really important, is understanding your business. So when I start talking, and when I talk about things like trends and your average gross commission income and these type of things, this is really for you. You're not going to base this off of what Cindy Lou does or what Allison Greco does, right? It's all about what you do in your business. And so knowing what your average sales price and your average commission is really important. Anna and myself and Blake Gruhl and a few people on this Zoom, including Lori and people on the Greco group, we all use CTE. We can send you a link that is really great to start the new year using CTE if you want to track your income and everything. But we can easily access what our average sales price and our average commission is based on that program. Otherwise, you need to kind of get a ballpark of what that looks like for 2023 so that you can go into 2024. Also, when I'm doing these numbers, what I am doing is I am basing my year off of a bell curve. So the normal bell curve for real estate is 20, 30, 30, 20 for quarter 1, 2, 3, 4. Some people base theirs off of 25% of their income comes from quarter 1, 25% comes from quarter 2, and so on and so forth, right? And so typically when you're looking at, standard books that talk about your business of real estate, it's 20, 30, 30, 20. So we break down our goals based on that 20, 20, 30. And if you look here, you've got the inverted, if you look on F of this spreadsheet, you'll see that what I've done is base this off of a bell curve that, might be what you're expecting for your business, if that makes sense. And so if you've got $150,000 of a goal for your GCI for the year, if you look at quarter 1, I'm basing that quarter breakdown off of 20%. So 20% of that year is coming from quarter 1, and then 30% is coming from quarter 2, and 30% is coming from quarter 3, and 20% is coming from quarter 4. The reason that I've done this is because people's bell curves are different. So if you have higher quarters or lower quarters historically, you can make those changes in this spreadsheet. What I have done here, though, is I've based it off of a 20, 30, 30, 20. So the statistics is that you're going to have a higher quarter 2 and a higher quarter 3, and a lower production quarter 1 and a lower production quarter 4. Does that make sense? Is everybody tracking? Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by, let's just say we know how much money we want to make. What is our gross commission income? And when we use the word gross commission income, that is the money that we are getting from our brokerage. So if you are on a 70-30 split with no cap, then I don't want the $5 million, number. I want the number that you are getting a check written to you for. So that's 70% essentially. What is your gross commission income that you want to take home from real estate next year? So that's where you're going to fill that in on B2.
Okay.
All right, so then what we're going to do is we're going to pull down to B3, and this is where you need to say, like, what is your average sales price? So for our market, our average sales price is about $400,000. That's just kind of as a team what we see. Again, this is your number. This is where you need to figure out what that looks like for you. And your average commission. The reason that this is important, guys, is because this is all calculated out. And so B6 will show you based upon how much money you want to make in your GCI. It's going to tell you how many units you actually have to sell to achieve that number.
Mm-hmm.
Are we all tracking?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if I, as an agent, want to do $150,000, right? My average sales price is $400,000. And my average commission is about $8,625, because again, that's the money that the brokerage is actually writing me. That's not the full commission check, because we're all aware that that full commission check isn't really what I'm bringing home, right? Then what this is saying is that I need to do 17.39 transactions in 2024 with that average commission of $8,625. What's important to realize now is as we're tracking for 2024, we know, like, maybe I did 70% buyers and 30% sellers in 2023, but going into 2024, I really want to leverage my time, and I kind of want to invert that. I want to do 70% sellers, and 30% buyers. So Amanda, if you can change that on E over to 70%, yeah, so 30% at the 30% at the top, 70% at the bottom, invert that. Thank you. So what it'll do is you'll see over here to the right of the screen on G, it shows you that if you really want to start leveraging and focusing on getting more sellers than buyers, then this is going to recalculate this for you and show you that you need 12 listings closed, and you need 5.2 buyers closed to be able to hit and achieve these goals. Does that make sense? Good.
Yeah.
All right, so for anybody that has just joined us, there is a link for a Google Drive document in the chat box, and you can kind of follow along through that. We're going through what this document looks like and how it's going to help you break down your year. So if you scroll over to J, what this also does, and I just want to say full disclosure, guys, I'm not a CPA. So people's tax brackets are different. Some are higher, some are lower. I base this off of just a standard 33% estimate. So if you tell me that you want to make $150,000 in gross commission income, the good and the bad with being a real estate agent is that we are 1099s. We don't have taxes taken out, right? But we need to make sure that we understand that just because we made 150,000 doesn't mean we walked away with 150,000. So I've gone over here to Jay, and I've estimated your taxes on a 33% basis. So you can expect to pay the government about $49,500. If you want to talk with your CPA and break that down quarterly and make quarterly estimated payments, you can do that. Again, I'm not a CPA. But what it does is it shows you your net. So if you tell me that you want to make 150,000, really what you're telling yourself is you're making 100K. That's how much money you're going to bring home. I've also got a sheet at the bottom. If you see the sheet, say that's called burn rate. This burn rate is for you guys to fill in. You can make this whatever you want it to be. I've had people that do personal burn rates. They want to know their mortgage. They want to know their groceries, all of these things. This I have just started for you, which is based on just your real estate. So you need to remember that you are running a business. You are an entrepreneur. You are a business owner. If you are a solo agent, if you are on a team, it doesn't matter because you are running your business, and your net is how much profit you make. We can sit here and look at agents that have made $1 million a year, but if they've got $700,000 in expenses, they're walking away with $300,000, right? And then they still owe money to the government off of that $300,000, and so they're probably in the hole at that point. And so it's really important to focus on your profit, not just your gross, and that's why we're really breaking this down. And so here is where I would say, what's your monthly real estate dues to your MLS, your monthly subscriptions, are you paying for Zillow, homes, .com, realtor.com? What is your Flowdesk and your CRM and all of your miscellaneous items and your printing and signs and lock boxes and all of that? So I would encourage you guys to just kind of brain dump and start filling this out. And what we really want to do is realize that this number is probably larger than you expected. And then it'll feed back into your master sheet. And so that burn rate will then take away from your gross, essentially, and then that'll give you your net. So for instance, Amanda, if you can go back to master, and in burn rate, just for yours, just go ahead and add in there like $22,000. So what this shows you is that your net now after taxes and all of your expenses is $78,000. So what you're working on here is understanding how much money are you actually making to live. And I think the question for me is, if anybody's been following along, does anybody feel like they need to change that GCI goal? Does anybody want to kind of talk about that or weigh in on that? Nobody wants to.
It's showing that if you do a GCI of 150, really you're netting back 78.5. So if you really want a GCI of 150, you need to up that goal.
That's right.
Correct. Yeah, so I think it's pretty shocking to realize if I won 150,000, then is that my GCI or is that my net? Again, I think that a lot of this industry is ego, and a lot of people talk about how much money they make, how much money they make. And again, I've met agents that have made $1 million, right? But what's their profit? How much do they actually really make? Because I can fluff a lot of numbers and make it look like I've made a ton of money, but if I'm spending all of that money, then that doesn't get me very far, right? So this sheet is kind of your basis sheet. What it also does is it breaks down for you guys, if you're looking over here and like lines 10 through 24, you can start to follow and say like, what was my closed GCI that month? So at the end of January, you should always go back to this sheet and type in, what was my closed GCI? So let's say my closed GCI was $6,200. Well, guys, based on what we told ourselves we wanted, right? Based on that $150,000 and statistics of real estate, we should have done $30,000 that quarter, which means every month should break down to about $10,000. So if my total GCI is $6,000, then I'm off by $4,000. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
What I think happens so often in this industry is that we are so busy running our race that we don't stop to look back to see if we're actually hitting our benchmarks. And so what we want to do is make sure that at the end of January, we're going back in February and March, we're going back and we're looking to make sure that our closed GCI is where it needed to be and our closed units are where it needed to be. Because what we could also do is start realizing that maybe we're closing less units than we really needed and expected. Because here it shows you that statistically you need 1.7 closings. Maybe we're not hitting our closed units that month, but we hit our GCI out of the water. Because what's happening is our average sales price is increasing, right? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's decreasing. So what I think is good for you guys to do is start tracking, track your business. You are business owners. And if you are not tracking it, you will get off course. And so here is kind of like a fun thing where you can say like, yes, hell yes, I hit my weekly goals this month, or no, I did not. And then what you do is you make sure that you're adding in what your quarterly average sales price, quarterly commissions are, so that you can keep tracking and know that if your average sales price has gone up a ton, then maybe you need to go ahead and change these average numbers here to really adjust your trajectory. Does that make sense? Okay. And so then over here on K, I'm all about drop down boxes and yeses and nos. And so if you drop down, you can see here on K that it's a green for a yes and a red for a no. And as we go through this, you'll see that we want greens. That's the whole point here. All right. Does anybody have any questions before we kind of move on? Okay. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go to the weekly breakdown. It's the second tab. So this breaks down your entire year. Okay. And what this is going to do is it's going to be the tracker for you to hold yourself accountable. And maybe you want to find a partner that you share your spreadsheet with, that you guys can do a Friday check-in. But what this is going to do is it's going to break down how many listings did you take in week 1? And how many buyer offers were written? The big thing here, guys, is E through K is how many contacts did you make that day? Okay. So, Amanda, if you go in and you type in, like, just type in 22 in each column. So E, F, G, H, I, J, K, just type in 22. You see that it turned green?
Because you made your goal.
Because you hit over 100. Now, if anybody wants help like editing their spreadsheet to make these work for you and your goals, I'm happy to hop on a Zoom anytime with you. But this basically was just a benchmark that as soon as that number in column L went over 99, it turned green. So if you're not doing the things that you need to do, you're going to have a sheet full of red. And all this is an accountability tracker. You see, so she could do 10 contacts every day but she's never going to hit her goal. It's not enough.
Mhm.
And it's going to stay red. So this is just an accountability tracker for you. Good? So what we're going to do is every week, you're going to want to make sure that you fill these in because it's all about contacts made, guys. If we're not making the contacts, we can't expect for the business to come. And if the business doesn't come, we're not writing the offers, we're not listing the homes, and then we're not hitting our goals. So we're going to start here and on the master spreadsheet for yourself is really your goal that you've set for yourself. And then all of these other sheets are really just holding yourself accountable to those things. So let's go over to the perfect week. This is something that we created as a team and our coach, Coach Kara Mole, has helped us with. And this is something that if you want to use this as a tool in your toolbox, you can. But this is where it references like, did we hit the perfect week, right? And what the perfect week is that week 1, we either hit the goal or we didn't. So did we have 100 conversations? Yes or no? Yes. Did we add 5 new contacts to our database? Yes or no? No. Did we host an open house or tour 5 properties? Yes or no? Did we schedule 3 listing appointments or buyer's appointments? Yes or no? And did we send out 15 handwritten notes to our sphere of influence? Yes or no? And then you need to make a note to yourself, right? Sorry, I'm trying to find who's not muted. I'm sorry.
I think it's Sue.
She's
Sounds
like
like you're-
I'm gonna see if I can mute her, Allison.
I got her. Yeah, so basically then you guys want to make a note to yourself, because what happens again is that we get so far in the weeds working in our business that we don't stop long enough to realize that we need to work on our business. So I hope that this sheet is something that'll help you realize, like, this is just back to the basics, breaking it down week by week by week. Does anybody have any comments or anything on this sheet?
Allison, can you put the spreadsheet back in the chat? I switched to my computer and I can't pull it up.
I can do that.
I was just gonna share. I don't know how many of you are big John Sheplack followers. I listen to everything he says. And I think one of the big takeaways that I got last fall is, like, we're obsessed with outcomes, and the last 2 or 3 years of this market allowed us to be very obsessed with outcomes because the market was doing a lot of conversion work for us. And I think that the big takeaway, and my team's heard it, is like there needs to be an obsession with processes. And our human brains are just like, we're just not wired, especially real estate agents, we're just not wired well to recognize what that process looks like. And so I just firmly believe you have to have written, like, empirical evidence of you've been obsessed with processes. And that's what this sheet is for me. So I think that's just a big thing. Like, we get so obsessed with what do our outcomes look like. And that's what that first sheet is, right? That first sheet we jumped on is outcomes. What does that look like? But the more important sheet for you guys throughout the year is going to be this one, because this is going to prove, are you working through your processes? Are you obsessed with your processes? If you work on this sheet, that first sheet will become a absolute just throwaway. All the numbers will be met. This is where the work is done. And I think this is why, if I had to focus on something, especially my team that's on, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not, you've got to have some accountability to yourself during the week on what am I doing to be obsessed with my processes.
Milena, I know we've been working really hard this week, and Walter and Sierra and some other people, we've done some stuff, and we spent 45 minutes of just focused time with each other on a Zoom on mute. That's all we did. We spent 10 minutes, we talked, we got a game plan, and then 45 minutes we muted ourselves. And we just literally pounded the phones. Can any of you guys just kind of say, like, what that did for you?
For me, I make calls every day, but it was just the simple, I don't even know what you did, your magic, but just getting on and not focusing on taking notes and things like that, just getting on and dialing. I got a ton of calls, a ton of contacts, and then setting time after we make the calls to write handwritten letters to them, sending emails, follow up. So, it just makes these sheets seem very doable, like to hit the goals, because when you like set the time to do it and you just focus on that one task instead of like multitasking, for me, I mean, it's helped me so much.
And so what she's saying, guys, is that when we rolled out the perfect week, and some of you guys might feel a little daunting, right? Is that it's 100 conversations, 5 new contacts added to your database, host 5 open houses or tour 5 properties, schedule 3 listings or 3 buyers appointments, and 15 handwritten notes. That might sound daunting, but I don't know if Sierra wants to pipe in, or Milena, but guys, once we started doing just one change, we did a 45-minute Zoom where we held each other accountable. They're hitting that easily.
I'll say even like whenever we were on Zoom and we were doing those cold calls and stuff, and like, I mean, out of my first 15 calls, I had 4 new contacts.
So it doesn't seem so daunting to check yes to that cell where it says week 1, 5 new contacts to your database, right?
Exactly. And I mean, that was 30, 45 minutes, like you said, and that was extremely easy to hit that goal.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything or feel like they need any clarification on any of this?
Yes, I would love for you, Allison, to talk a little bit about what is your strategy for those of us that have a full calendar year from 2023? I don't like to talk about market noise, but what's your kind of mindset going in to set these numbers based on what you did the year before? And at what point in the year do you ever make any adjustments to these numbers based on things that happen? And what is your strategy on keeping yourself tied to the numbers, motivated to the numbers being realistic, attainable, smart? Can you just talk about like what your experience, like what to do, especially if you have a full calendar year of sales behind you?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, if I set a goal for myself, and I don't just throw spaghetti at a wall, right? Like I know my GCI goal is based on what I need to live, and also what I need to achieve the goals and the hopes and the dreams of for myself and those people around me, right? Like, what do I need to make so that I can feel like I can walk into the grocery store and not look at the price of an apple? I know that sounds crazy, but that's something for me that I don't want to have to worry about. I don't spend frivolously. I am very conservative, but I don't want to ever have that feeling of not being able to buy whatever I want to buy and do whatever I want to do. I mean, I've said this before on Zooms and other places. I want an elephant orphanage in Africa. I want to save and rescue elephants. And that takes a lot of money, right? And the more that I put that into the universe, the more that I ingrain that in something that I'm going to hold myself accountable to. So what does that GCI goal look like? If that means that I have to put $200,000 a year, net, taxes are paid, I don't have to touch it, into an account for the next 20 years, so that I can let that grow and build, so that in 20 years, when I turn around and I say it's time, I get to do this now. How impactful is that to me, right? So you need to understand, like, what is your net? What are you walking away with? And then if you guys want to do a second mastermind on like, how are we going to divvy that up, and how are we going to invest in it? What are we going to do? Years ago for me, we decided that we want to buy a rental property a year. So that helps us with our financial freedom. We know those numbers so clearly that I know what my gross commission income has to be. So here's the deal. You can either increase your output and your work, or you can decrease your goal. And I absolutely will not decrease my goal, because I have a goal that is so ingrained in me, and I believe in it so strongly for all of the things that I want to do. And again, it's not just for me, it's for the people around me. It's for my family, my sister and my niece and nephew. And if somebody ever came to me and said, oh my gosh, I mean, what if somebody in my family got diagnosed with cancer tomorrow, and literally it was going to cost $500,000 to send them to the best hospital so that they could get the best care? I can write that check. Hands down. I don't have to question it. I can write that check, because I decided a long time ago that that's what I want. So if it's about the apple in the organic grocery store, or the, cancer diagnosis or getting an elephant orphanage in 20 years. You have to decide what you want and what those goals mean to you. And the second that you get really clear with yourself on what those goals are, there's no question that GCI is only going to change if it goes up. So to answer your question, Anna, if you get to the end of January and you realize that your GCI goal is lower than you didn't hit your goal, right? Then February, that $10,000 needs to change. So if you made 6,000 in January and you were supposed to make 10, you better make that 10,000 in February. It needs to be 14 because you were off by $4,000. And what are you going to do to fix it? So for me, unpopular opinion, I'm not changing my gross commission income goal down. It's only going to go up.
Yeah, I
Allison,
asked that
if you were to go
because
in
I
and change, if you went in and changed, like, say, your J4, which is your net, will it recalculate backwards to give you what you need to set your GCI at?
I am not that fancy schmancy, but I have people that could probably make that happen. I could probably figure that out. I'm not a huge spreadsheet guru. I mean, I made this, it's pretty basic. But I could figure that out for you. I mean, it's just 33%. So it would just be 130%.
Sometimes it will do it backwards, but or you could just play with that number over here and B2 until you get to the
You could play with it. Hey, Sissy, do me a
J5 that
favor.
you want. So
Go to your net on J and type in 150. I don't think it's going to work, but.
Do you want me to make another block so you don't delete your formula?
No,
You'll
I can do
delete
all of
the
it. It's all good.
Okay.
Just, yeah,
You
push
said-
150. You made a copy of it, so this is your copy anyways.
Yeah.
Let me see something. Nah, it didn't work.
Yeah.
No, Walter, it didn't, but I
Cool.
could figure that out. That can't be that hard.
It's just a reverse. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that fancy. Anna, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I posed that question because I wanted you to answer it, because I think that we do have this mindset of, oh, if I didn't hit my goal, I need to feel good, so I'm gonna adjust it down so that I don't feel like I can't make it. And I think that the people that hit their goals are people that don't have that mindset. So I just knew you'd answer it well and passionately. So thank you for going
You
there.
wanted that passion. I know. That's what you were
I
looking for.
know. And listen, guys, I'm here to tell you, like, most of you on this call are in our group, like, this is why you're here. Like, if you don't have an Allison in your world to like do these things and say these things and empower you and encourage you, like this is why plugging in is so essential, because that 30 seconds of hearing someone really talk about getting your goals clear, like, people pay $25,000-$30,000 to get in rooms with people like this to have these conversations. So I just encourage you, if that spoke to you and you want to talk about that more, like, please schedule time with all of us. I love having these conversations, and I'm glad you got to hear it straight from Allison, because no one kicks my butt more than she does.
I'm getting that damn elephant orphanage. So that's that. All right, guys. So I don't want to bore you guys to death with spreadsheets. I mean, I can make this sheet whatever you want it to be. We've actually got the 100-point day that Anna has created, which is a tab here. This is another tracker where if you guys want to, say, look, I'm going to give myself, I want to do 160 points a day. If I can do these every day, then I'll win, right? This is something that Anna could probably talk to more in a different class, but these are all games, right? It's all a game because we're tricking ourselves. So if you start looking at this sheet and you start this January 1, I created this for January 1 because everybody likes to get on in the gym membership, right? Everybody likes to set a goal for themselves. You guys, you are going to look at this sheet the first thing you do in the morning and the last thing you do at the end of the day. And if you start seeing a lot of reds, the only problem is you. You're the problem. You are not doing the things that you need to do. And if you tell me that you don't have enough time, it's an excuse. Because what you're saying to yourself is you don't have enough time for the goal that you've set for yourself, for the life that you want to live, for that life by design. It really is that simple. So figure out what those goals are. If you guys want to hop on calls and figure out what those goals are, if you want to make a separate sheet here and you say, I want to do personal goals and professional goals, and you start typing them out, this is essentially a diary. It's a diary of your goals, day by day, week by week, month by month. And at the end of the year, if you have more green than red, you're probably going to be a little bit closer to your goal. If you have more red than green, then there's a problem and you have to figure out maybe your goal's just not strong enough to you. I believe that if your goal is so strong, you will not let yourself fail. And again, the options are to increase your output or to decrease your goal. It's that simple.
Yeah, Mary Maloney posted that yesterday. I don't know if that's where you drew it from. I loved seeing that post. But one thing I will tell you for higher eyes in the room, or even some of you with some S&C in you, Allison's all D, right? Allison on January 1, she doesn't need any external motivation. She doesn't need any feel good. She's just going to do it. I'm a high I. I need a little feel good. So for those of you that need a little feel good, here's one thing I'm doing right now. I know my brain is not going to shift on January 1 because like it's just not. I have to give myself a little bit of reward. So for those of you that are in that world, just think about this. You've got 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks to get through the rest of this month, right? 2.5 weeks. What is something that you can give yourself a win on now? So yes, all this stuff is geared up for January 1, but the best advice I can give you is find a goal. Maybe it's just journaling at night. That's been mine. I said, I really want to journal next year. So I didn't wait till January 1. I said, I'm going to do it for the next 3 weeks because 21 times, right? We get into habit forming activity. So find something on this sheet. Find one thing that you say, I can go ahead and I can start this now so that that habit is already built for Jan 1. If you can show yourself you can conquer one thing between now and January 1, this entire spreadsheet is going to look far less intimidating when you go to hit it on that magic day that we all go to the gym, we all eat a salad for lunch, and we all make all of our real estate calls.
So I want to tell you guys a little story, and then we're going to end it with one thing to do. You just inspired me, Anna. So my nephew, my sister brought my nephew. Sorry, I don't know who's got the reverb. Sorry. My sister brought my nephew over, not yesterday, but the day before, and he was kind of pouty. And I said, Clayton, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? You know? And he said, I want to go to the park. And my sister said, well, he can't go to the park because he got yellow today. It's like a calendar. And I was like, well, what does yellow mean? And it's like subpar, not great, right? So I told him, I said, all right, well, how about this? If you get blue, purple or pink, which is like great and good, then you can go to the park. And if you get purple 4 days in a row, Aunt Allison is going to give you like a very special prize. And sure as shit, I got a picture of a calendar right when he left school with a purple block on it. You guys, that's not by happenstance, right? It's because I made a deal with him, right? All I'm telling you to do is make a deal with yourself. If I can make a deal with a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, then, and he can get purple, that means he behaved all day, then you as a, however old you are, can hold yourself accountable to this. And so go into the weekly breakdown or the perfect week. I broke both of these sheets down to show you like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, right? And at the end of every week, write a note of what you're going to do for yourself if you hit it. So if you're in the weekly breakdown, and if I get all 4 blocks of green, right, which means I hit 100 contacts a week, then over to the right in M, make a deal with yourself of what you're going to get. Is it a massage? Is it a facial? Is it that you're going to have somebody come and clean your house? Are you going to go on a, night in Savannah, Georgia with your husband? Or like, what are you going to give to yourself? So every 4th block should just be a prize to yourself. If we can negotiate with toddlers, we can negotiate with ourselves, right? So if you use this sheet, I think that you'll see a big difference. If you don't use this sheet, it'll be just like that Peloton that's sitting right behind me that has collecting dust. It's the same thing, right? Like, we're creatures of habit. We do what we want. We have to focus so deeply on our goals. And quite frankly, my goal is not to get in shape, which is why that Peloton is not sitting here. But if you don't think that my spreadsheet is going to be all green next year, it absolutely will be, because that's a goal and a dream that I believe in very, very deeply. So you have to figure out what that looks like to you. And if you don't use this sheet, it's not going to work. That's all I have. Anybody have anything?
That was excellent.
I know I'm pretty great.
I want to just touch on, if it's okay, I just want to touch on what Blake said in the chat. I was about to like try to do a whole paragraph, but so our team each has the copy of the master page of the agent tracker. Allison has been really working hard on making this what it is today, but it's a tool in a toolbox, like she said. So for everyone, you know, if we sent this out to our whole team, there'd be probably 4 of them being like, again, another thing. But it's because some people work really well with tracking this. So like I can see Milena wanting this. Miranda's already texted me and said, hey, can I have this? Because that's how their brain works. So I think, you know, offer it to every single team member, see how they respond to it. But if they're not using it, get it out of their drive.
Blake, I'm gonna top on that though, Kristen. What we're doing, Blake, is the master sheet. We're using that so that we know what our agents' goals are, right? And then we're using, as I'm a team leader, for anybody that doesn't know, I own a team, right? But I can't base my team's production and goals off of something that I just decided I wanted it to be. So I need to know that agent 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 want 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 100,000. That then shows me what my trajectory for the year is, right, Blake? So then what I'm going to do is in our monthly meetings with our agents, we do one-on-ones. We're going to sit down and we're going to say, hey, show me your sheet. And if they're not showing me their sheet, that's fine. If that sheet's not a tool that they want to use, that's fine. I'm not here to tell anybody what they have to do. But I will know, are you on track or are you not on track? Because that master sheet, like Anna said, that's gonna paint the picture, right? So if I say, hey, you told me that your goal was 150,000 in January, you should have made $10,000. Where are you? And they're not at 10,000, then that's gonna spark a conversation. Does that make sense, Blake?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So you can let them do whatever. Now on our master sheet, Blake, I've got like the master sheet where you see, I've got that for each agent. So when I sent you yours, each tab had an agent's name on it, right? So it'll be agent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That way, when I do their meetings, I can say, oh, hey, where are you? What'd you hit? What'd you do? But I don't need to see that week 1 and day 2 and all of those things. That's for their own accountability, right? And so we are just going to use this as a talking point to transpose into our monthly meetings with them to know if they're on track or not. The rest of it, the back end of it, that's them. They got to do the work.
Sweet. Yep, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? I hope this was helpful.
My only question is that, like the sheet you gave us the other day in that Zoom meeting that had 125 leads or 125 names. I need to figure out where I can have a list or something like that weekly that I can pull out, 30, 40 a day and make those calls. But that's been one of my holdbacks, is trying to figure out where these leads are coming from. So.
Does anybody want to jump in on that before I make a comment? Okay, so I'm going to give you ideas that don't include paying for leads. Are you a member of a church?
Yeah.
Are you a member of an HOA or a neighborhood group?
Yes.
Are you a member of the WWE Wrestling Society?
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
The point is this: we focus on the problem as humans, right? We focus on the problem. Excuse me, and I know this is being recorded. Fuck the problem. Find the solution.
Right.
You've got a church list. You know what that church list has? It has their phone number, their email, and their address on it. Like you have, and you're not harassing anybody. I was in a Zoom one time. I don't know if this is legal, so I'm not telling you to do this, but this was really interesting. The guy was like, yeah, I go to my my dry cleaners. He goes, and I don't really get clothes dry clean, but I did this one time and it worked really well. He literally sends all of his clients to the dry cleaner. He'll give like a 10% discount. He puts it on all of his marketing, dry cleaner. You know what the dry cleaner does? The dry cleaner gives him the list every month of contacts from his dry cleaner. Again, I'm not saying to do this. I'm just saying, like florist, veterinary's office. You have so many people that you're giving business to, let them give you business back. There's creative ways of finding clients without paying for it. The problem is that we are all looking for the easy button. We're all looking for the easy button. Here's the other question. If I told you that that list that I gave you cost $5,000, what would you say?
Gonna work it.
It's a lot of money but that list could be much bigger than what you shared with me.
But that's the point though, right? If we realize and we convince ourselves that these lists and these things and those things that we're doing cost $5,000, we're going to work a little harder. You know what? You want to know how I used to get a list to call? Because I didn't have a list. I had nobody to give me a list. You know what I did? I bought a phone book. I'm sorry, I lied. I didn't buy one. I got one for free. It was like on a side of a street in front of Blackstone's. I called on a phone book. A phone book. I flipped page by page by page by page. I've evolved, you know, but there's numbers everywhere. There's access to contacts everywhere. You just have to go find them and decide that that's what you want to do.
I do white pages a lot.
Sierra, what are you white paging though? Who are you actually, what content, what information are you looking to white page from that?
So I do like the Landglide app or Onyx or something like that. And I just go through like an entire neighborhood and I sit there and I put every single person on there, and then I go back to my white pages and I reference it and get whatever emails, phone numbers, anything. And it might take me an hour to get an entire neighborhood done, but if I do that on a Sunday, I have all of that contacts for that week to sit there and call.
That's great. I used to do the same thing. And then we do something called circle prospecting. So for any listing or any just sold, we go into BC Gov, that's our county website, and we circle that neighborhood and we call every single, or if you just listed it, you call all the neighbors surrounding, and you go and you find the address, and then you go into white pages and you circle prospect that way. So there's work, you can do it. You just have to figure out how bad you want it.
Yeah.
Your database will grow, and then eventually you won't have a problem. I mean, we've got agents on our team that have got 15,000 people in their database. They could, you know, just sit down and just start calling. The problem is they don't want to do it, you know? Okay. If anybody needs me, I'm here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll get this up on YouTube for a rewatch, you know, sometime this afternoon. And Walt, I heard you speaking to, like, on that same YouTube channel, I have a 4 or 5 weeks of Sphere of Influence work that's recorded with some activities. So tap into that too, because I can tell you my database was built off my parents' old church directories. Allison was not lying. It was juxtaposed by a F-bomb, which was amazing, but that's 100% where I started.
And that's authentic. See, be authentic to yourself, everybody. I can't get through a Zoom without the F-bomb. I apologize. All right, guys, I got to hop onto my team meeting. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Allison.
Thank
Welcome.
you.